as I said in my introduction this morning, we've been saying, or I have been saying, is voice dead for the last decade? But maybe the question shouldn't have been that. It should be, what is voice and how is voice transforming now into the future? So I hope we can answer that question today, because some people, some companies are still making profit, are innovating in voice in that space. So what makes, what sets them apart? What makes them so special, and how can you do the same? So to start us off, I would like to welcome our panelists. If we can introduce Pascal Prot, is the CEO of Legos. Pascal,
Hello.
welcome. We got Chuck Parrish is Senior VP and General Manager at Telarix. We have Jairo Bravo, is Head of Voice Product and Marketing at Orange Wilson International. And we have, I don't know if he's joined us yet, we have Eugene Pradas, is SVP Global Strategic Development at BTS. Is Eugene here yet? No, maybe not. He's having trouble joining us. But as soon as he joins us, we're going to get him on the stage. So just to let you know also, Jairo, it's his first panel. So I'm going to promise to be very, very nice to you, Jairo. I won't be asking you any mean question. So welcome to your first panel, Jairo.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. Don't worry, I'm happy to answer any question.
Cool. So the question is voice dead? Or maybe what is voice? So I wanted to ask Eugene that question, but as he's not here with us, we can ask him when he joins. But who would like to answer that question for me? What is voice today and into the future compared to what it was before? Pascal, do you want to get started?
I can replace Eugene for a few minutes. Voice is a channel. We see voice as being one of the channels to interact in more. We're more concerned about B2B environments, so we would be considering voice in the scope of a customer relationship, customer experience. So it is one channel among others, and as those markets have been consolidated across continents, we are at Legos. We're mostly concerned about Europe as a market, but it's also true for the other Asian or North American or Americas market. So that involves international voice as being the title of this panel, of course. So we see voice and international voice as a channel among others. And what is maybe new over the last decade is that there are some challengers who are producing voice as a channel in a different way from traditional telecom operators. So that's that. I think we're happy to welcome those new kids in the block. They have their own ecosystem. They're quite often in a closed garden environment, and this has a specific market structure, I would say. They have their own drivers, and from an international voice perspective, the volumes are still increasing, although we're challenged. But all the communication services are still booming. So for us to answer to make a first attempt of answering your question, Isabelle. So no, voice is not dead. And what is voice is a channel among others.
Okay, Chuck, Jairo, do you agree?
Yeah,
do you agree with Pascal?
I think Pascal makes some great points, and I think it's great to look at voice as another channel. Certainly, the historical voice that was enjoyed in wholesale for years has changed tremendously. I think for many years, I think we kind of expected voice would decline a lot faster than it has, but it's an amazingly resilient area that just keeps finding new ways to innovate, to develop. Certainly the newer voice channels are dominating and taking over, but there's still significant voice business remaining in the more traditional side of things. And I think the key is really to see operators need to see the voice component as a channel and sort of morph and take that infrastructure that they built, the people that built the processes, and how can they apply those into the other areas that are generating more revenue streams today, and just leverage what they have, because they need to continue servicing that voice business for quite some time to continue.
Okay. And Jairo, I said I would be on spot, but I've lied. I'm going to put you on the spot now. At Orange, what do you think at Orange? Is voice dead? Is it still alive? Is it changing? Is it what status?
Well, the message it kind of goes in line with what Pascal and Chuck are saying. No, I will say probably that we need to look at voice like something that is evolving. So it's one more channel that we were mentioning, but at Orange and obviously on the wholesale part, that is where I'm working myself, international voice, we have this notion of being the typical P2P calls historically, wholesale calling internationally to someone, the roaming, etc. But it has evolved so much now, and we need to look at that, the brighter side of things. Now all the services behind the fraud protection. There's A2P calls as well, all the embedded communications and enterprise workflows, etc. I think it's the question of it's alive or what is voice today. Maybe the question is, are we playing in the right part of the value chain? That's maybe the right question to ask each of us, maybe.
Actually, that's a good question to ask. That's probably the question to ask. So when Eugene joins us, if he joins us, we'll ask him what he thinks. But so
we will ask him.
Yes. So I guess we all agree the traffic is declining in voice, but some people are still making profit. They're still finding ways of making money. What separates the winners from the losers in that space? I guess maybe you've answered part of it, Jairo, with being in the right place in the value chain. But Pascal, what do you think separates the winners from the losers?
Well, first, I don't agree that voice is decreasing.
Okay.
That's the first statement, because I think the volumes are really developing, and voice is now being used in a very more flexible way than it used to be. Again, from a brand's point of view, from a customer relationship point of view, I mean, end users, they want to have the choice. And even the brands, they realize that at the end of a robot, chatbot session, you need to do something more to get the agreement, to sign the order, to finalize an order. And for this, voice is the most efficient channel to do so. So you might want to open a session with a mic and a smartphone, or with a sound on a PC, or you just make a phone call because you know the phone number of the guy, and that's what this market segment prefers. And many surveys and customer opinion shows how much they love voice as a channel to start a relationship with an unknown brand, or with something that the brand wants to campaign on the market. So that's a first statement. And from a winner or loser, well, I don't think someone can continue doing something being a loser. So I wouldn't talk about from the loser's perspective, but from what boosts Lego's growth and profitability. Well, I would say that end-to-end managed voice and multi-domestic voice, as Chuck mentioned earlier, is really some trusted service. So maybe there's been some image of international voice being a hard-selling trading market with some actors not so careful about the regulation, about the compliance, about the identification of where the call is coming from, where it's going to, and so on. On our side, we're a multi-domestic operator. I mean, we're operating across Europe, but our playground is really when we manage both ends of the phone calls, meaning from country A to country B, being able to show how much we are compliant, delivering and hosting number ranges in the country A, and delivering that to a country B where we know who's behind the phone. So that brings some trust in the customer experience market, and this goes through the voice channel. To us, it's really a winning proposal. It's from value generation, as Jairo outlined and mentioned, I mean, there's some value on this market of managed voice on multi-domestic voice conversations for customer experience guys.
But managed voice, isn't that more an enterprise play?
Yeah.
So are you saying maybe the money in voice is more towards enterprise, and carriers should move slowly towards that if they can, because it is difficult to move to the enterprise.
I'm saying what we did and what we're doing on a daily basis. I'm sure specialists of the consumer market will have a different story. And if we take the WhatsApp voice market, I guess this booming. It's international. It's consumer. The value is definitely not at the right on the right location. But we're into a totally different system as we're in a closed garden and in a community service.
Okay.
So it's a bit different from a telecom operator market with its regulation and doesn't reach the same target. I mean, WhatsApp or other systems they don't have the same penetration rate in all countries, unfortunately for them. I mean, if you count on WhatsApp in the US, you don't have a very high reach, nor in Asia, in China, where it's more of a WeChat. So either you need a universal service that is voice as a telephony service, or you need to use a set of community services to try and reach the same market. Whether it is on B2B or B2C, it's the same story for that.
Okay. And Chuck, maybe you're a vendor of solutions. You see different types of companies. You don't need to name anyone, but what do you think the difference between the winners and the losers in the voice space at the moment?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Or maybe not the losers, but the grade. I'm going to grade
focus
it
on the winners. How about
that? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. We work with quite a number of operators around the world and see a lot of different models. And I think maybe the most obvious one is those operators that have large subscriber bases, where naturally the voice minutes continue to be significant and worth managing. And I think that then we see other sort of niche players who have developed a certain methodology or process and very intelligent automation. I don't like to just use automation as a generic word, but has to be intelligent automation, or people won't step back and allow systems and things to run automatically unless they're confident they're going to produce the right results. But there are people who pour enough focus into that automation that it becomes a competitive advantage for them and lets them do much more with a lot less resource. As obviously, it's a very commoditized business, no matter how you look at it, and you've got to be super efficient in order to be profitable at running that business. I think the other thing that I see is really it's all about pivoting into kind of enterprise enablement. So kind of get back to the whole enterprise aspect of this. And so as much as not just the voice channel, but all the other channels, enterprise enablement, I see that really being the positioning for the wholesale segments of most operators, and remaining relevant and very competitive.
That comes with lots of challenges, because a lot of the wholesalers, the carriers, have tried to not pivot, but at least add the enterprise part to their business, and it's similar but very different at the same time.
Yeah.
So it is a big challenge to be moving towards that part of the business. And Jairo, go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, I think selecting right partners for those people, I think, is really a key point too, right? Because everybody can't just flip overnight and become able to serve the large enterprise customer base. So picking certain other enabling partners that have that skill set, that have the breadth and depth to go after that, I think is another key ingredient to the whole formula.
Okay. And Jairo, what makes Orange a winner in the voice space? You don't have to give all your secrets, by the way.
No, but when you first asked the question, I was thinking that actually, probably in a different way, we all ask ourselves that when we set up the strategy on voice or in any other product, probably you ask yourself, how can I become a winner, no? Or how to not become a loser as well can be the other question. On Orange, to be honest, it's kind of repeating some of the keywords, not that has been mentioned already, but it's all about adapting. So we need to adapt. We cannot look at voice as we have traditionally looked at it during the last 10 years when everything was booming and everybody was happy. And as well is to look into a different way to diversify the revenues and generate the value. Chuck was mentioning all the business operations embedded into the corporate, etc. We can talk about the whole CPaaS environment. On our side, we try to look more and more towards the voice security, that it's everything part of the same environment that will support as well for enterprises, but as well, there is a need, I'm going to call on the more commodity part of the business, that is the more legacy one. The differentiation on quality, of course, especially on our side, tier one carriers, that's a given, let's say, that we need to provide in the market. But in general, answering now your question after a bit of a speech, I think that winners really is to not look at the traditional way of looking at voice. It's not anymore especially on the wholesale world, the minimal margin, the volume gain. Let's gain this for a minimal margin. We have been working on an environment in which actually, when you look at the profitability, it's much smaller than in other products. So keep looking at it this way is kind of giving up. So I think everybody needs to look at in the mirror and ask themselves probably the question, how to become a winner tomorrow and not focus only on my objectives in 6 months. Probably that's how you become a winner, to ask yourself the question.
Okay. And part of becoming a winner, I think, is to innovate and continue transforming. Is there still room for innovation in voice, or is it just a cost cutting and consolidation now? Is it, is there space for people to innovate? Chuck, do you see that in your part of the business?
Yeah, definitely. We see, the cost cutting and the consolidation part is definitely real. You can't really say that it's not, and I think it's an opportunity for some of the larger operators to offer sort of consolidation services for the small to medium-sized operators that are out there who don't have enough volume to really continue to support that traditional business. But in terms of innovation for voice, yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity there as it morphs into different channels, but also things like virtual numbers or cloud numbers are highly in demand nowadays, and it's not necessarily a new or super innovative service, but the levels at which that's being tapped into today is definitely increasing and in high demand, and doing that well and doing that effectively, I think, is another opportunity, another one of those enterprise enabling type of technologies that's we're seeing a lot of traction on that in the market as well. So I think there's tremendous amount of opportunity, and I think just looking back, I'm not sure that it's possible to always predict where the innovation is going to come from. As I mentioned, voice has been pretty resilient over the years in finding ways to move and adapt, and so I think we'll need to stay on top of it. I think Jairo said a very, very important thing, which is not to just look at what's coming in the next 6 months or so. How do you meet those objectives? But a much longer term than that, and how do you get yourself prepared for the long term and the shift in the business and where the margins and the profits will be coming from.
Okay, Pascal, do you agree with Chuck?
Yeah. Definitely.
Because you're innovators at Legos.
Yeah. I was going to illustrate, because Chuck, you just mentioned the virtual numbers and how they've been used. I mean, we've been and it kind of really bloomed over the COVID period. All the appointment confirmation with doctors. So that was originally just to get a shot of antivirus. But now it's here. It's here to stay. This goes through not only voice but also SMS. You can speak to your Uber driver anytime, and well, guess what? It's easier to speak to him when you're on the street waiting for him than because you want to know exactly where he is. You want this to be interactive. You don't want to have to type, so you need really the voice as a channel to do that. And same for all kind of use cases. And what is new as well is, and this might be sound a bit provocative, but even regulators, they're contributing to innovation. we've studied our European deployment from the French market, and France, the French regulator made up some fantastic new numbering plan update last year and a couple of years ago to dedicate some new resources to new use cases. Those new use cases being either contact centers or automated platform or IoT. So all this sounds like dedicated to AI or dedicated to customer experience actors and so on. So even regulators are contributing to the innovation or forcing innovation. I mean, you can take it positively or negatively, but that shapes the innovation on some markets, and it's quite a similar or parallel situation on the German market, on the Spanish market, and that forces our customers and all the guys who are just entering those markets to scratch their head and say, okay, what do I want to do with those numbers? Where do I want those phone calls to go? And I'm going to use the right numbering resources to do that. And that's what the CPaaSs are making available to the end users or to the brands or to the application developers and so on. So the whole ecosystem evolved to enable this innovation over the last 5 years. And I mean, it's just 5 years, so it's just starting. And now it's kind of amplifying and accelerating thanks to AI, because all the AI players, they need a pipe. They need someone to establish a voice channel so that they can call the end users or the brands, and they can then generate their generative AI conversation across a voice channel. And the most convenient way to do it is on a smartphone or on some kind of phone. I was going to say fixed phone, and it sounds like I have gray hair.
But you do have gray hair, Pascal. Sorry.
I do,
Wow.
but not only.
That's true.
So I'm not talking only about gray hair or non-gray hair. I'm not talking only about voice. I'm also talking about SMSs, and I'm talking about interaction in general, where the end users, whether it's the brand who wants to sell you something, or your family, you want to share a weekend souvenir and pictures and emotion. I mean, you need all those medias all together. Okay. So it's not one or the other.
Okay. And in Jairo, in case of the tier one operator, a carrier, I often say, it's difficult for the big players that have been there for years, because they have to have a split personality where they have to be able to be very efficient, cost cutting, traditional, manage their business as well as they can, while at the same time innovating, because if they don't innovate, they can't keep up. So it's kind of a big challenge for tier one operators to manage both innovation and be agile and what it takes to innovate, while managing their traditional business, in an efficient way. What do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the big challenges in big operators is that the diagnosis is there. Like everything that Chuck, Pascal are mentioning. We know where we need to go, but it's true. Sometimes, actually, people don't understand that being big could be a problem, because transform takes longer, actually. And in this case, where you have the traditional voice maybe decreasing, you need to look to new areas within this channel to evolve. It always takes a bit of time. So actually, we need to work as well in internal efficiencies while still delivering results, of course. As well, I would like to mention, if you allow me, Pascal, it was a provocative comment you mentioned about the regulators. This is really interesting, because I agree with Pascal 100% on his comment. At the same time, I look at I'm going to say the negative side of things, and is to say we need to be more reactive. Could not be regulators who are pushing us to drive the innovation in a way. It's good to get the support, but I think we need to look again at ourselves and as a community and be the ones who are more proactive in this. Of course, regulators should be part of the journey, etc. So that was at first thought. Sorry, Pascal, because you mentioned it, and I was thinking, yes, it's great that they help us, but we should be the ones probably going to them, telling them we should do this. And maybe we do, and I'm not aware. So like answering to you, Isabelle, the diagnosis is there on big operators. It's the journey that always takes a bit longer than usual. We are organized in certain ways. In Orange, we still have different entities managing different parts of the voice business, etc. So it's always difficult. But at the end of the day, it's all about it's awareness of where we are and make sure that we move forward where we need to move. So apart from that, yeah, I think that we will get there. And hopefully, like we were answering before, we will still be a winner, obviously, on our side.
We're all winners. Don't worry about that. So I guess in my last session, I mentioned about the fact that we're all here because of the money. We're here to make money. So where do you think is beyond traditional voice services, where is the most promising revenue stream? Is it voice security, AI-driven analytics, CPaaS, something else? Pascal, where should we focus? I think you've mentioned a few things already, but maybe to summarize that in.
Well, I think the money is a key issue. The margin is also the key driver, and the key word for that is really conversation. So conversation is how you interact between two people, whether they're consumer or B2B, and they want to be able to use the channel they want. So today we're using in this discussion, we are using voice and image. We're using just a little text, but maybe at the end of the session with some question, we'll use a bit of text. But yeah, we want to interact. I mean, if you look at how the younger generations are using the community services, you see how much, even within the voice service, how much they're using voice as an interactive channel, or just voice messages that they're sending across. They record a WhatsApp message and send it, and then you hear it, and then you reply to it. So it's like walkie-talkies, which is like years back, but they're adopting it and they're loving it for a specific use case. So a set of conversation, multi-channel, and use case will just generate the value that will bring value to your markets, whether they're a population, a community, or a brand, if we're talking about B2B.
Mm-hmm. Chuck, do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. I think Pascal's got a unique way to look at it, and it's quite interesting from my perspective. But yeah, don't know what else I would add on top of what Pascal said. Really.
Okay, Jairo, anything to add to what Pascal has said? Do you agree? Disagree?
Just to mention again on our side, I think that as well the voice security on our side is a quite important, or we foresee an important revenue stream for the future. So it's something that I think, and again, I don't want to stick, because I don't want to always talk and make the people think that we're talking only about the traditional wholesale. But I think it's one of the qualities that everybody's expecting in the voice market, and how we protect everybody on the end-to-end, regardless of the voice communication or the voice channel that is used. I think it's something that we need to work out together, as well with regulators, because regulators will have a say on how things can be protected, etc. But apart from that, yeah, I think we mentioned everything about the AI-driven, the whole CPaaS channel, etc. We need to look into it, managed services as well. So I think Chuck mentioned it in one of the questions before. We need to be there as well to monetize in a way. Yes, there's our new revenue streams, but as well to give the right services to all those small, medium MNOs that at the end of the day, for them, is a pure cost cutting. It's true. So smaller players, they are looking into it as a pure cost. So I think big players could help on and generate new revenue streams from those kind of managed services as well.
Okay, and I'm going to stay with you, Jairo. In my last session, I wanted to talk about collaboration, and I didn't. We ran out of time, so I'd like to talk about collaboration in this session. It's a big topic for me. Do you think industry collaboration can slow the decline or even create new value? If so, how?
This is a really interesting question. As you know, I asked to answer this one as well first, just for everybody to know. I had an answer here because I have a really important kind of message that comes to my mind, and I thought this panel will be really interesting. It's linked to what we said before. I am part of a lot of these work groups regarding voice on a lot of really nice initiatives. You know, we had MEF, we got other ones, DLF, 534 Forum, now one consortium, etc. But it always feels that we are in a reactive mode. We are attending those, bringing ideas, but it does not seem that it becomes the priority of all of us, all the community, to actually move the things forward. Again, I might be repeating some of the messages, but it just seems that we are focusing on the short-term values of our day-to-day business more than looking ahead at what should be the tomorrow of this product. So I think that we need to collectively enforce ourselves. For example, when we talk about security, I always have this kind of dream and saying, well, it's really easy to secure our partners, even in the most standard traditional wholesale international business on voice. We just need to identify with whom to work and with whom to not to work. And then you're actually saving the market in a way, no? So yeah, I love the global interaction. I love the collaboration. I love all these initiatives, but it feels that, and you know what, it's not a problem of the people or the entities driving them. It's, I think, ourselves, the players, who needs to be part of the game, who needs to give maybe walk the extra mile there to take it more as part of our strategy. This is not a nice place to be and get market news and see where everything is going. I think there is a real benefit if we all work together from even the most operational little things that are happening in the market. If we all agree into standardize the way we work and how we answer to react to certain movements in the market, I think we can do much better than what we're doing. Maybe it's not the most positive message. It's positive, but I think we can do better.
But I think I agree with you. We need to stop just saying we need to partner, but then nothing really happens. We kind of say it, but nothing concrete really happens. It's time for us to say, okay, how can we partner truly and more, bring more value? But Pascal, Chuck, do you agree? Do you think it's possible for wholesalers to truly partner to bring value? And if so, how should we do it differently? Because I don't think yes, we're good at partnering for network, connecting networks and things like that, but maybe not in terms of solving issues, industry-wide issues.
Yeah, the area that comes to mind for me the most, it's been worked on a lot, but I'm not really sure how much success there is in the area of fraud management, fraud prevention, and collaboration, sharing data, and it would seem that it's been around long enough that we should have made lots of progress on that, and I think there is progress. But I do think as the voice business kind of declines, at least the traditional side of it, it's really important to have that protection in place, because any kind of exposure from bad actors or whatever can have a massive impact on a business in a very negative way. So I think that's really a critical area. In general, I think that I think that it's not super wise to really think that we can slow the decline of something. It's kind of happening naturally as the technology evolves. So kind of need to more embrace it. I mentioned in our prep call about, we don't want to be Blockbuster Video and ignoring, Netflix coming along and streaming video. So similar kind of things applying here. We need to embrace the changes that goes with it. We can manage the decline, manage a graceful exit of this over some time. But I think that thinking we can put the brakes on it and stop it is probably not not super wise.
Okay, Pascal, what do you think? Do you think it's possible?
Well, I would add this trust issue that are facing the traditional international voice operators, because again, most of them are doing mostly the international side of the call, not the origination, and maybe and a loose control on who's the call is going to. In our situation, and it's this multi domestic positioning. I mean, we don't need to guess who's making the call. We do know who's making the call, and 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 so that's built in. There's some other mechanism that local markets tried and or implemented, like on the US market with a steer shaken, that is now on the French market as well. But that other, and I'm going to talk about regulators again, that other regulators, for good reason, decided not to implement, because they know the limitation of all those technical tools that can be worked around and so on. So you need to have a simple scheme, simple use case, so that the end users knows who's calling him, what he's calling him for. So that's how a brand would use his brand name in the caller ID. But that does not prevent anyone from using some how do you call this when someone pretends to be someone else? Usurpation in French, fraud, and identity management. But I mean, I would be supporting the KISS strategy, like keep it simple, stupid. So if you manage the numbering resources and you're hosting them, well, you can tell anyone who's asking you who's using this number, and that builds some trust by simplicity.
Okay.
So we haven't insisted so much on this trust issue in the telecom market in general, because it's not limited to voice. It's trust in general, but it's also applied to the other systems who are challenging the international voice. You're wondering if someone who's contacting you through WhatsApp is really who is pretending he is. And if this person is using your daughter's voice to ask you for a code or something, I mean, you take a lesson and you want to learn how to fight against that. So even those guys, they have their own. They need to pick their fight as well.
And maybe to close this off, I like to look into the future. If we look into the future, 5 to 10 years down the line, in all your crystal balls, do we see voice services as being part of tomorrow's communication, or is voice something else completely? What do you think, Pascal?
Well, I think I've been clear about my reply on that. So yes, I do. Definitely, among others, and I see really conversations as we're doing today. Again, mostly on voice and video, but that's what you do when you're talking with one of your commerce that you've been using on a day-to-day basis, either down the street or via a global website. And that implies multi-channel and conversations, and those community services are trailblazing. They've started that a few years ago. They're still in a kickoff mode, growing but challenging the existing systems. I see those guys taking like 15% of the market within the next 5 to 7 years. It's not going so fast. If you look back a bit, all the pilot projects you hear of, they're all the same. They've been the same for the last 3 years, somewhere in Brazil and Indonesia and so on. And so it will evolve again, but voice is here to stay, because end users love it.
Okay. Chuck and Jairo, do you agree? What do you see if you look in the crystal balls 5 to 10 years down the line? We look at voice services. Chuck?
Yeah, I see definitely voice continuing to exist for another 5 to 10 years for sure. Maybe even can separate a little bit. let's say the traditional or legacy voice that Jairo's mentioned a couple of times. I think depending on the market that you're talking about, the geography, it may still exist in a much bigger way in that time frame than in others. Others will probably adopt the newer technology much faster and more deeply. But regardless of which mechanism it is, for sure, voice will be probably one of the main human preferred methods of communication for the long term.
And Jairo, what do you think?
Yes, well, the answer is yes. And, coming back to what Pascal said, actually the word trust is as well one of the reasons why voice is going to always exist. The trust that exists of talking and hearing someone, regardless of the message you need to hear, etc., that's always going to be there. So just to summarize on my side, I mean, we've been talking about the overall enterprise automation, AI, artificial intelligence, customer interactions, authentication, I don't know. I think it's going to be integrated on everything. Voice is going to exist, I think it's going to exist actually on the legacy part with the decrease, but as well I'm going to say, the most modern part that we need to evolve, all of us. But definitely the answer is yes. Voice is always going to exist as a channel. And I think that's never been the question anyway. I think we all agreed. It's just that we confuse, when we say voice was dying, we confuse that it's not the channel in itself. It was really pointing at one specific part of the market maybe. So yeah, I agree with Chuck and Pascal. Voice is going to be here in the next 5, 10, and probably more than 10 years as well.
Okay. And I just heard that Eugene is here. He's backstage.
All right.
We'll let him in. Eugene!
Hey. Great. Look, very interesting discussion. I'm listening to everything that you guys are saying. My input on this is that there is life after death. Okay. And that without a doubt, given the scope of the industry, we just keep in mind that this is a transformation. If the wholesale volumes have been decreasing since 2015, but recently there's been an uptick on the revenues. Last year, this is all statistics from telegeography. There's a 1% 2023 increase in revenue. There's a 2% in 2024. Not everything applies. Different regions of the country, of the world, of course, is different. Africa is now starting to have decreases in volumes as Europe and other areas experienced prior to that. But again, just similar to what Mark had mentioned earlier today, there's a transformation. The transport of information is changing. The vehicles are changing. But still, people continue to talk, although some young people are talking less. But there's a transformation in that area. And at the end of the day, when you guys were talking about making money or not making money, everything relates to the ecosystems, right? And I think that efficiencies, the AI systems will also allow us to be much more efficient and optimize the opportunities on the table. That's all I can say from my side after listening to everything that you guys have said as part of the team.
Okay, so actually we could have skipped the whole panel, Eugene, and you could have talked for like 5 minutes and then we could have gone and have a drink. You've summarized really well what was said, I think. So I guess to close the panel on a final message, what advice would you want to give the audience to remain relevant in the voice space now into the future? Pascal?
Get multi-channel. So that's what we see every day when we start working on a voice opportunity. A few months or a few days after the SMS, the text opportunity comes up, and get multi-domestic. Same, but it's related to our market positioning towards contact centers and CPaaS and cloud telephony operators. They have a global need. Those voice market are continental, so we're working on the European voice market. So if you're addressing just one country, you're just missing most of the target. So you need to get multi-domestic and get multi-channel,
Okay, Chuck.
and then you capture,
Oh,
you get the
sorry.
value. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's fine. No worries. Chuck.
I'm
Yeah, I
done.
think.
Sorry, Chuck.
That's all right. I'll stick with the theme sort of that I've heard earlier in the discussions, not just in our panel, but the other ones, which is to be adaptive and embrace change and take advantage of the opportunities along the way in the transformation that's to come. So keep your eyes open and watch out for those opportunities.
Okay, Jairo, our little baby, not a baby anymore. Now that you've had one panel under your belt,
I will grow old and voice will still exist. So one day I will be here and I will.
So what's your last message for the audience?
So the last message, well, kind of is repeating part of what I mentioned before. Let's stop thinking about only the today or the tomorrow. Let's think about the future. Let's adapt together. There's a lot of efficiency to be gained. We need to talk about security, about the overall integration, talk about enterprise voice solutions, etc. Basically, maybe the last message is to say, let's stop looking at voice like some people look at it like a commodity business, but more like a product that we can all transform for the future. And like we were saying, adapt, because again, we answered it before, voice is going to still be here tomorrow. So we better move with it, no?
Thank you. And Eugene, last but not least, now that you're with us, how do you want to
I
close
must
this
thank you
session?
again for inviting me to this. I think they always say leave the last for best. I guess No, I double up a little bit on Chuck adaptation, but I think plan for success. All right, look at success. Look at the options, the opportunities at hand, and how efficient can you be to work with the resources that you have on hand to optimize the ecosystem that surrounds you.
Okay, thank you. Very, very good closure, Eugene. And everyone, thank you for joining. Thank you for watching, and thank you for taking part, guys. I think it was a super interesting discussion. We concluded voice is not dead. Yoo-hoo! So we're going to be here for the next 5 to 10 years at least. But there's a lot of work to do, and be creative, be innovative, and try to partner together to create value. So thank you, everyone. And until next time.
Thank you, and I apologize again.
No worries.
Thank you so much, Isabelle.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks, guys.
Isabelle.